Sibling Rivalry, Family Expectations, Betrayal, and Redemption. The relationship between Thor and Loki isn't just a central part of the Thor and Avengers films. It's an epic story of family dynamics that touches on deep psychological themes. Today, we are diving into the complex sibling rivalry between Thor and Loki, exploring how family expectations, favoritism, and personal identity shaped both characters. Thor and Loki, brothers bound by blood, but divided by their upbringing and deep-rooted differences. On the surface, Thor is the golden child, strong, destined for the throne, and beloved by their father Odin. Loki, on the other hand, is the clever, often mischievous younger brother, always overshadowed by Thor's glory. But their rivalry isn't just about competing for their father's approval or the throne of Asgard. It's about identity, insecurity, and the psychological impact of parental influence. From a young age, Thor is positioned as the favored son. As the firstborn and future king, Odin showers him with praise, strength, and responsibility. That kind of parental favoritism can have a profound effect on siblings, fostering feelings of superiority in the favored child and resentment in the other. For Loki, growing up in Thor's shadow leads to the feelings of inferiority and envy. Despite his intelligence and magical abilities, Loki constantly feels overshadowed by his brother's physical prowess and Odin's clear preference for Thor as the heir. The psychology here is classic. Perceived favoritism from parents often leads to sibling rivalry, where the less favored sibling strives to prove themselves worthy of attention or recognition. But there's another layer to Loki's jealousy: his secret heritage. Loki eventually discovers that he's not even Odin's biological son, but a frost giant adopted as part of a political alliance. This revelation shakes Loki's sense of identity to the core, intensifying his identity crisis. Loki's struggle with his identity, the feeling of being an outsider in his own family, fuels his ambition to surpass Thor and claim power. This is the hallmark of a sibling who feels alienated and excluded. His rivalry with Thor evolves beyond simple jealousy. It becomes a quest to assert his own identity, to prove that he is not just Thor's weaker brother, but someone destined for greatness. In families, siblings often compete for their parents' approval, and Thor and Loki are no different. Thor's worthiness is directly tied to his father's approval, whether it's wielding Mjolnir or preparing to take the throne. But for Loki, it's a different story. Loki's sense of betrayal from Odin, learning he was never meant to be king, fuels his feelings of rejection and abandonment. Loki's repeated attempts to gain Odin's approval, even though deceit and betrayal, highlight a core psychological theme: attachment and validation. Children often go to extreme lengths to win a parent's love and recognition, and in Loki's case, the lack of validation manifests in anger, manipulation, and rebellion. On the other side, Thor's relationship with Odin is built on expectations of greatness. Thor grows up believing he's destined to rule Asgard, which leads to a sense of entitlement and overconfidence. He sees himself as a natural successor, without questioning his own flaws. This dynamic between Thor and Odin creates a sense of hubris in Thor, a psychological blindness to his own shortcomings. It's only when Odin strips Thor of his powers and banishes him to Earth that Thor begins to realize the true weight of responsibility. For Thor, the loss of his power and his father's favor is a necessary step towards personal growth and maturity. Loki's sense of inferiority and rejection leads him to seek control in other ways. His manipulation of events to take over Asgard in Thor: The Dark World shows his deep need to feel powerful and in control, traits often seen in individuals who have felt powerless for much of their lives. This behavior is typical for someone grappling with narcissism, the need for admiration, validation, and control. For Loki, this drive comes from a deep insecurity and a desire to prove his worth, not just to Odin and Thor, but to himself. Despite their intense rivalry, Thor and Loki's relationship evolves, especially in Thor Ragnarok. The brothers begin to understand one another, not as rivals, but as equals with different strengths. Thor accepts that Loki will never be like him, and Loki starts to acknowledge Thor's leadership without feeling diminished by it. This reconciliation is a critical moment in their relationship. It shows that despite years of rivalry, the bond between siblings can grow and heal. Thor's acceptance of Loki, flaws and all, allows Loki to start seeing himself in a new light, no longer defined solely by his jealousy or needful validation. In the end, much of Thor and Loki's rivalry was shaped by their father's influence, whether through favoritism, expectations, or emotional distance. But as Odin passes, both brothers are left to define themselves, no longer tied to the expectations of their family. Thor and Loki's story is a powerful example of how sibling rivalry can shape a person's sense of self-worth, identity, and even destiny. But it's also a story of how family dynamics can evolve, showing us that reconciliation, understanding, and growth are always possible, even for gods. What do you think about Thor and Loki's rivalry? Do you see elements of it in your own family dynamics? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into the psychology of your favorite characters.